And hello, if you are joining me, which I doubt you are. My name is Jack Eppington, and you are watching Space World Update, which is an umbrella title for a series of videos that I'm doing to cover space news. Tonight, we're doing a live stream to cover the launch of CRS 27, which is the latest of series of cargo missions from SpaceX to the International Space Station. That is now in a situation where the propellants are getting ready to load. The vehicle is in a countdown and getting ready to launch. And I'm going to give you some ideas about what to expect from that. As we stand as of now, the launch is taking place um, in Florida. Let me see. I don't actually know the launch time except on the UTC basis, which is 30 minutes past midnight UTC. So figure out what it is in your local area. But some interesting research going on this mission to the ISS. One of them is called FARGO. Uh, Ferrofluid Application Research Goes Orbital. They come up with these cute names. It's amazing. It's a project of a student group at the University of Stuttgart. Another is called Brains Biological Research Using Artificial Intelligence for Neuroscience in Space. And there's a couple of other ones like that. No astronauts on this, just to make it that absolutely clear. This is a cargo mission with a cargo dragon. Now, that's the one that does not have the Super Draco thrusters along the side because that's an abort system for crewed missions, and they don't need that for that. So the mold lines are still there on the capsule, but there's no actual rockets inside. Other than that, though, it is pretty much a standard Dragon, no couches, obviously, no atmosphere or ELS for environmental systems to support a crew, just a lot of pallets and a lot of tie downs for cargo. That's why NASA likes these things. There's a lot of cargo that can go upload to the International Space Station on missions like this. So things are in good shape. There's a whole lot of research going up to ISS, and ISS now has a full crew of people, having had Crew 6 just join them. So they are up there now. They're prepared to receive all of this cargo when they get up there. So they're going to be standing by. That won't actually happen, though. I don't believe the docking happens until perhaps Thursday, maybe Friday. It depends on how things happen. The launch is taking place from LC-39A, same place that the crewed missions depart from. Although the latest buzz has it, I don't think this is quite official yet, that SpaceX is preparing the other launch pad, uh, Slick 40, to handle crew and cargo missions from that site. They don't have the actual facility to do that at this time, which is the reason that they only launch Starlink missions and other satellite based missions from that site. The facilities at LC 39A are much better for Crew Dragon and Cargo Dragon. So that's what that's about. That's expected to change, although not any time in the near future. Let me see. There, everything is going pretty well, as far as I can tell. Things are looking good. SpaceX has just started its feed, and I'm going to verify a few things as we do this, as we go along. The countdown is now at approximately 28 minutes and 17 seconds. As I say, the launch loading of the propellants in both the booster stage and the upper stage is well underway at this time. So they will be proceeding toward a launch date in less than half an hour. That will come approximately 8:30 or so Eastern time, and this will be a direct trajectory to the International Space Station. Um, those of you in the Northeast, I was going to suggest up by the New England area, you might be able to see it. But unfortunately, I am in Boston at this time, and I can tell you we are sucked in by a big storm. It's called a nor'easter, and what it means is that it has been raining all day. It is now snowing. So the idea of being able to view much of anything along the coast at this time is pretty nil. But other than that, some other time we'll be able to do that, I guess. So we're getting ready to launch CRS-27. Hopefully things will go well. I'm clicking around to just sort of check some things. And as far as I know, fuel loading was going well. Nothing particularly uh, off nominal at this time. Everything's going pretty well. And obviously, it's a nighttime launch. The viewing down in Florida might be considerably better than it is here in Boston. I would imagine so. I've not heard a weather report recently, but hopefully they do have good range and good range weather. Let's go back to some of the other experiments that are being sent up to the ISS on this um, mission. One is called biofilms, which is an experiment investigating bacterial biofilm formation and antimicrobial properties of different metal surfaces under spaceflight conditions in altered gravity. That means, of course, microgravity, and probably perhaps also the stresses that it goes through during acceleration, such as during launch and return. Another one is called AuroraSat, which is to a number of CubeSats that are built by students from the Aurora Research Institute in Yukon Valley, Canada, with the collaboration of the University of Alberta, Canada, which provided the bus for each CubeSat and did final integration of payloads. One of the two primary missions is the Northern Images mission, which will display art on a small screen on the satellite and then take images of this art from space with the Earth in the background. And children across northern Canada will have the opportunity to have their artwork featured. The Northern Voices mission will transmit and broadcast recordings of Northern Canada stories and perspective in amateur radio bands across the world. And again, that's one of several things going on. There's another CubeSat mission from the University of Arkansas. Its main mission will be to perform atmospheric measurements through the ground detection of an LED signal from orbit. In other words, they're basically just going to flash a light and see how that is detected on the ground. That's sort of the opposite of the way it used to be. They used to shine lights up from the ground and see if it was detected by the spacecraft. As a matter of fact, all the way back to the very first orbital manned mission, John Glenn in Mercury, the people in Perth, Australia, set up a whole bunch of spotlights to shine up as he passed overhead. And John Glenn saw the lights and said thank you to the people of Perth, Australia, for lighting Perth to be a target for his site. That worked very well. In this case, this experiment is doing the opposite. It's shining down LEDs to see if the light can be detected from the ground. So that's one of the experiments that's happening. What else? Another CubeSat developed by students at the Arizona State University carries a flash bulb that can be remotely activated by radio amateurs to produce a brief flash visible from the ground. Same idea. They're going to flash a light and see if it is detected well from the ground. So all these things are going up on the International Space Station, and of course the usual cargo of laundry, well, not laundry, but fresh clothes, I guess, to replace laundry, and fruit and veggies and foodstuffs and other things like that. Perhaps some technical supplies to effectuate repairs and maintenance on the International Space Station. All these things are necessary to keep the ISS in good health and status. And so these cargo resupply missions, whether from Moscow or from America, are really pretty important to keep the International Space Station in good repair. It's kind of getting old, quite frankly. In fact, this next year of 2024 was the original target, I think, for the end of life for the ISS, but that got extended to 2030, and they're trying to stretch it out a bit. So it's in good shape. It's in good condition, but that's largely because of the various spacewalks that happen and all of these cargo resupply missions where materials are brought up for the crew and for the space station maintenance itself. So that's how they keep it all going. And this is the latest mission to do that. And the crews look forward to that because they get some goodies out of it and they get the supplies that they need to do future spacewalks or just to handle and repair various components inside the ISS. So at this time, we are about 21 minutes until launch of CRS-27, and everything is going well. Fuel loading is continuing, and everything is going well. So we're just going to stay in touch, watching the SpaceX information. They were expecting winds of 15 to 20 miles per hour, which is a little steep for a launch, but not many. They have 59 degrees Fahrenheit on the launch pad. Conditions are 90% go. So there's unless they get some really unusual thick clouds or something that would violate one of the rules with that, it's unlikely to be a negative for the range or for launch conditions. Everything is pretty much go. No concerns with the launch vehicle at this time. There goes the 20-minute vent that happens as they pressurize the vehicle with not pressurized, but just load the propellants onto the vehicle. The vent happens because liquid oxygen is being topped off on the booster stage. And also, it's happening on the second stage, and we've just gotten the call that the upper stage fueling is pretty much complete at this time. All things are going pretty well, and things are going well on both stages. Um, because this mission is going to the International Space Station, SpaceX and NASA are playing together. You know, NASA, of course, being the main partner of the International Space Station, takes an interest in every cargo mission. And again, the crews are looking forward to the receipt of this cargo vehicle. So they're watching the launch as well. Everybody's sort of watching. It looks very good. It looks like a good night to do a launch. Everything seems to be in good order, and looking forward to the launch of CRS 27 from LC 39A at the Kennedy Space Center, which is scheduled to go off in about 18 minutes and 45 seconds from now. Hopefully, all will go well. All right, so as I said, the actual vehicle is a crew, not a, I keep wanting to say crew dragon just because I like the the crew missions, but it's not a crew mission. No astronauts. It is a cargo dragon, which in fact is not exactly the same as a crew dragon. It has no Super Draco engines in it. They're not needed on a cargo mission because there is no abort mode. The abort mode is used only in case of an extreme emergency on a crewed vehicle where the Super Dracos would ignite and shoot the Dragon off into a away from the booster that is presumably malfunctioning. That's not needed on a cargo vessel. And so the cargo dragons don't have that facility. They have that mold line, that space where the Super Dracos would be on a crew vehicle, but they don't need that. There's nothing there. There's no engines. So it's just there. But as we said before, in other ways, it is very, very similar to a crew dragon. And there's a number of these. I don't know quite how many at this time. I think there's at least two, in addition to all the crew vehicles. And they want these things to last for some time. I believe each cargo dragon is certified for only 5 missions, and SpaceX would like it very much if NASA would certify them for much longer and get more life out of them. On a technical basis, they probably can. They've been holding up very well on each cargo mission, and the crews and NASA managers also seem very happy with the delivery of supplies to the International Space Station. Um, with these cargo dragons. They go up, and of course, it's not the sole resupply of the ISS. Of course, on the Russian side, you have regular Soyuz vehicles, which come up as 23 recently did, just to supply more stuff, and also Progress unmanned vehicles that supply things to the Russian side of the station. Um, pardon me. So at this time, 16 minutes until launch from LC-39A. All is go right now with CRS-27, the Falcon 9 rocket from SpaceX on the launch pad at LC-39A. All is going well. The vehicle is being fueled, and they're getting ready to launch. Um, with In addition, and one more time, I'll just go through this again. Obviously, they have the food and clothing and supplies that usually go up on every cargo mission, but a whole raft of little uh, um, experiments, CubeSats, they're often called, many of them built by students in various universities and space clubs to do various things like flashing lights to see if they can be detected on the ground, taking readings of various things. So, all those students are watching tonight and are very hopeful for this mission. Their cargo is those satellites, and they are very, very hopeful of getting them delivered to the International Space Station. T minus, we just a little under bit, 14 minutes and 42 seconds now from launching CRS 27 from LC 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This is, of course, SpaceX. The vehicle is very designed to handle a multiple cargo load like this. Um, all these things are being done, the experiments under the auspices of NASA and various student programs and cargo programs for this. And in the Cargo Dragon, which has no couches or environmental systems for astronauts that are not there and therefore not necessary, it's a good deal of cargo that you can pack in there. So again, that's why all these little CubeSats can go in there. Um, I don't know actually if any of them are outside in the trunk. That's a good question for somebody to ask. I hope somebody asks it. Maybe I could find out myself at some point. Presumably, they're either in the trunk or they're inside the actual cargo vehicle. And then again, the normal food and fabric and whatever tools and so forth that would be going up to support the maintenance of ISS. But it sounds like a very interesting cargo load, very good upmass load for this mission. And 4 new astronauts from Crew 6 that had just arrived there like last week. And they will be there to, along with the existing astronauts on there, to welcome the cargo vehicle and they will take control of that when the crew, or rather, when the cargo Dragon arrives there in a couple of days, presuming the launch tonight goes well, and hopefully it will. So we're looking forward to this. The weather down to the Cape seems to be good. Falcon 9 seems to be in good shape. Everything's going pretty well. And cargo is in good shape. I mean, the Cargo Dragon is in good shape. And we're just running down through the Falcon countdown at this time as they get ready to actually launch Falcon to the International Space Station. Coming up with T minus 12 minutes and counting. Mark, T minus 12 minutes. Now, in the final preparations for launching, um, everything's going well. The fuel load is just about finished. They will start pressurizing the tanks and doing final checks. All of this is now in an automated system. Falcon is now basically running itself and getting ready to launch, doing final checks, and of course that will accelerate in the final minute or so of the count. Falcon needs to take care of its own systems, and of course, Crew Dragon needs to do that as well. In the unlikely event anything goes wrong, the systems know to automatically hold and, if necessary, scrub the count. Flight controllers in Hawthorne, California, at SpaceX headquarters are monitoring everything. There's a launch crew at Florida that will handle and monitor the actual launch and ascent of Crew Dragon up to the International Space Station. Um, and so we're just basically waiting to go at this point. Everything's in good shape. Um, what else can I tell you? The actual booster for tonight's mission is B1073. It's flying for the seventh time. It has a lot of experience behind it, and it will be going up to Crew Dragon, which will be going to the front forward Harmony node of the International Space Station. And as I say, everything seems to be going very well with the count at this time. T minus 10 minutes now to go. T minus 10 minutes to the launch of CRS-27, which is the cargo mission to send up supplies and experiments to the International Space Station on a Cargo Dragon capsule, which sits atop a Falcon 9, the latest in this series of cargo missions from SpaceX to the International Space Station. All is going well. We're getting ready to do this launch, and various people are, of course, watching, expecting this to be a good launch. SpaceX obviously has a very good track record. Launches from the Cape have now become almost routine, mostly because of the high number of Starlink launches that SpaceX is sending up on its own. They may get up to as many as 100 missions this calendar year. At least, probably, they're on track, I've heard, to do at least 80, but they might even do more. They've just finished the Crew 6 mission, as I say, in terms of human launches. So the next one will not be for a while. The only other thing going on with SpaceX, of course, is the development of Starship in Boca Chica, Texas, and no word on that. That's basically in almost final preparations, but they are still waiting for a launch license for the orbital flight test from the Federal Aviation Administration. No recent word on that or a schedule to get that orbital flight test underway. We're just sitting and waiting on that information. Could happen later this month or next month. We don't know. That's basically standard operations for Starship down in Boca Chica, Texas. Um, So that's it. We're waiting. We're waiting for the launch, and it's in good shape. It is launching again from LC-39A, the only place the Cargo Dragons launch from for now. But as I said earlier, some preparations are underway, at least plans are underway, to modify a Slick 40, SLC 40, a little further down the Cape, which launches most of the Starlink and other missions, to adapt it to allow a crew access arm so that astronauts can fly from there. And of course, that will also enable cargo missions to fly from Pad 40 as well, too. But that's not anything that's going to be happening anytime soon. But those are the plans in the works. Um, and for the mission now of CRS 27, we are now past the 7 minute mark in the countdown. 7 minutes to go on CRS 27 from LC 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. By the way, for those of you who don't actually know the layout of the Cape, KSC is technically a separate facility from the actual Cape. What we call the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, now the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, is, as you can imagine, operated by the Space Force, the actual military. Always has been the case. And it used to be the case in the 1960s that NASA would just sort of borrow those assets to fly on Atlas or Titan missiles to send up Mercury or Gemini astronauts, respectively. But the two properties are now separate, and since the Apollo days, NASA has operated through its own space, which is called the Kennedy Space Center, NASA, and that's just on the northern part of the Cape, and that is exclusively for Complex 39 on both pads A and B. But of course, there's sharing going on. Um, SpaceX, just as NASA did, will occasionally launch from within the Cape proper, that is the military Cape, and they've got their own arrangements to do that. SpaceX has, and so that's been a cooperative arrangement for many, many decades now. And but tonight's launch is happening from KSC for NASA, and therefore on a NASA launch. Well, I was going to say it is technically a NASA launch pad in terms of actual ownership, but it is actually leased to SpaceX. Just monitoring the communications now from SpaceX. They're now at T minus 40. I'm sorry, T minus 4 minutes, 30 seconds. All systems are go on the Cargo Dragon and on the the vehicle, uh, the Falcon 9. All is going well. No constraints that we know of. And everything is being monitored as the systems progress in the countdown. The command has been given by SpaceX launch controllers to open and do a slight retraction of the strong back, the transporter erector. That swings back just a couple of degrees to give clearance for the launch. And at T0, when the Falcon 9 launches, it will go all the way back about 45 degrees. But for right now, the arms keeping the Falcon 9 secure have opened, and the TE is going back just a couple of degrees as normal and expected at this point of the countdown. Tanks are pressurizing. All status is good with the launch vehicle and with Crew Dragon. T minus 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Coming up on the 2 minute mark, T minus 2 minutes and counting on CRS-27 and Falcon 9 launching tonight from the Kennedy Space Center LC-39A at the Cape. Stage 2 LOX load is complete according to SpaceX. Dragon is in auto idle. It's ready. All the systems on both the capsule and the launch vehicle are now going through final automated checks to make sure everything is good and ready for launch. Coming up on the 1 minute mark in the countdown, T minus 1 minute and counting as Falcon 9 gets ready to launch CRS 27 to the International Space Station. All going well. Go for launch from the launch director. That's it. We're going to go. Space station will be over the Indian Ocean as Falcon takes off. T minus 30 seconds. 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Full power and liftoff of Falcon 9. It's off the pad and heading off. Dragon, Crew Dragon, or I'm sorry, I keep saying that, Cargo Dragon on CRS-27 on its way to orbit. Launch is beautiful. It's going real well. Beautiful tail of fire lighting up the whole area as happens during the night launch. Just a brilliant, brilliant plume behind Falcon 9. Power and telemetry are nominal, according to SpaceX. Now 5 kilometers high. About to go into max Q, the point of maximum aerodynamic force on the vehicle. All going well at about 1 minute and 12 seconds. And in a few seconds from now, the first stage, the booster, will cut off. It's called main engine cutoff. It will separate again from the upper stage, which will ignite for the single Merlin vacuum engine that will boost the cargo Dragon to orbit, from which it will be maneuvering toward the International Space Station. Of course, the booster will be boosting back and trying to land on one of the drone ships that is waiting for it down in the ocean. Um, Views of that, if you're watching the feed, are going to be a little difficult. Obviously, it's a night, launch, but we'll see how that goes. But for right now, everything's fine. It's good. Beautiful fire from the first stage of the Falcon 9. And just about getting ready for Miko. There we go. Good Miko and separation. Stages have separated, and next stage is the green flash from the vacuum Merlin engine on the second stage, which lights up, and that is off and running. Good engine on the second stage. We would like to see that. And at the same time, the first stage has turned itself around, heading back to um, Earth. 100 kilometers high. The boost back on the first stage has stopped. SpaceX indicates that it's a little bit shorter this time because they have a light payload and they're actually able to land it on a drone ship much closer to the Cape than is normally the case. So they don't need to have as long a boost back as you might have seen in the past. So Falcon, on its seventh flight, has successfully boosted at least the second stage, um, and the cargo Dragon on its way to orbit. Just a few minutes away from orbit now, the first step toward the International Space Station, as we pass 4 minutes and 30 seconds into the flight. As the first stage descends back through the atmosphere, all the usual functions that normally happen with that, the cold gas thrusters are firing to keep the vehicle oriented. There will be a entry burn a little bit later, and then finally a landing burn to place it on the drone ship. Meanwhile, the MVAC engine on the second stage continues to fire. That's going well. Um, it will be hopefully going actually into orbit at about the same time the booster lands on the drone ship. As of now, the Cargo Dragon is at about 179 kilometers high, and increasing speed 120,000 kilometers a second. Or is that per hour? I'm sorry. Entry burn has started on the first stage on the booster as it heads back. Entry burn has shut down, SpaceX says. That's going nominally, all going well. Again, it's a night situation, so you're not going to get good views of the landing, unfortunately. But SpaceX is showing some things, and the actual jets of the cold gas thrusters, and of course the boost back burn and the entry burn did show up quite nicely. And on the second stage, we still see the MVAC Merlin burning away as it pushes Cargo Dragon up to orbit. Second stage is almost in orbit now. The first stage coming down less than 5 kilometers. slowing down, coming down, some visibility from the ground. Landing burn has started. Here it comes. Let's see if they get it down. They usually do. A lot of cloud cover, though, to go through. Landing legs deploy. Here's the video of the drone ship. Here it comes. And touchdown. Congratulations to SpaceX on another successful booster recovery. It has become absolutely routine, but there's nothing routine about the physics of getting this done. They get it done many times, and it's now back on the drone ship where it belongs. So success on the first stage and success on the second stage as it goes into orbit with CRS 17. I'm sorry, CRS 27, and the cargo Dragon heading to the International Space Station. The actual SECO of the MVAC engine will happen shortly. And following that, there will be additional burns to adjust the orbit and a number of staging burns that will heighten the plane of the orbit to position it for its rendezvous with the International Space Station, which will happen sometime tomorrow. But all going well, it's now over the northeastern coast of Canada. Going well. And SECO, we have SECO on the second stage of Falcon. It has done its job and placed Cargo Dragon into orbit. Now, you may remember I was asking about some of the experiments that might be in the trunk. Well, they just showed a, um, a that some of the experiments were in fact in the trunk of Dragon, complete with a docking device for the cargo arm that is on the space station to reach in, and the end effector can grab the device that's in there on one of the experiments to presumably bring it out of there and do something to it. Whole palette of experiments there. So a number of these experiments are, I think, designed to come out of the trunk and be exposed to space at least. May or may not go back. We'll see. Uh, but for right now, I'm just listening to a SpaceX update, and they do confirm it is in orbit. Everything going well. It has been a good launch and a good flight as CRS 27 heads toward the International Space Station. Lovely, lovely launch. It's always good to see a night launch because it just absolutely lights up the place. It's wonderful. So a lot of experiments now. A lot by students are on their way to the ISS. So that's something to look forward to. I'm sure the students are looking forward to it. NASA is looking forward to it. And of course, the crew members on the ISS are looking forward to all those experiments as well as whatever clothing and food items are on way to them now. So that's going to wrap it up for me. I'm Jack Epington for Space World Update. Thank you for watching along, and hopefully we will be doing more of these in the future. And that's going to wrap it up for me. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.